Hello everyone, this is Jill here to give the Purdue versus Illinois postgame recap, final score being Illinois 88, Purdue 82. Also want to apologize for missing the UCLA game, or the postgame recap there. I might add a little color commentary from that game in particular, because that was also a loss. But yeah, just was traveling, still am traveling, so didn't have as much time as I wanted to quickly upload a video. But nonetheless, here we are to talk about Purdue and Illinois. I think coming off the loss from UCLA and coming back home, there was this really high anticipation and expectation that we would, respond like we typically do, which is with high energy and excitement and an intensity that the past couple of games we may not have seen. And I think for the most part, when I think about the first half in general, I thought there was a lot of high energy from the players. Trey Kaufman-Wren in particular looked really fired up. Oscar Clough looking good. Braden Smith had a bit of a scare. I can't remember if that was the first half or second, but, just kind of rolled his ankle on a player's foot. So he just looked a little, not necessarily like he wasn't 100%, but I think that was something that people were watching very closely. And I think overall, I would say our players performed relatively well. I mean, Braden Smith had 27 points, 12 assists, 3 rebounds. Trey Kaufman-Wren getting 12 points. That looked really good from my end. And Omer Meyer, I think, having a bit of a standout game with his 11 points. He hit some clutch threes at really great times, and that felt like it was a really big momentum for us. Jack Benner had 5 points. I think he was making a lot of movements and being very aggressive on the defensive end and just trying to find shot opportunities. One thing I really liked about this game is I just noticed that our players are all really good ball handlers, like our shooting guards in particular. They're trying to penetrate the paint, trying to find open shots, really trying to, be very thoughtful on their offensive play. And I think we ran more of an offense this time around versus UCLA, where maybe we went down the court, took a quick shot, and it just didn't bounce the right way. So then UCLA got the rebound and went down to score. So this felt like a bit of a different offensive playbook from the sense that, it was less just run down the court, take a quick shot, and then have to run back on defense real quick. So I like it when Purdue runs offenses, really tries to drive the ball into the paint, get points in the paint, and, maybe get double down low to shoot it back out for an open three. So that's my kind of offensive play I like to see from Purdue. And I think for the most part, they did execute on that. Problem was, Illinois was just on fire from the 3-point today. Keaton Wagler is a freshman for them, and he scored 46 points. I think that's the most points any opponent has ever scored in Mackey Arena ever. So, that right there is reason alone to say what the heck is up. And I guess what's the game plan there? I think my disappointment from this particular game is the lack of adjustment from Purdue's end to figure out how to stop the three. Illinois is a team that it lives or dies by the three-pointer, and I think in the last game, Keaton Wagler had 1 of 9 from 3, so that particular game wasn't shooting well. This particular game, shooting lights out. How are you going to adjust? And I don't know if I really saw any adjustments that were effective for Purdue. And that's something that was like a key schematic for, I think, commentators for the game is if you want to beat Illinois, you have to protect the three. And I think we just have to readjust what our expectations are for that. So, our switching is okay if our opponents aren't really shooting their threes very well. We have time to kind of, make that quick switch and then, see if our bigs can handle the guard and whatnot. But I think in this instance, they were shooting really well. And the problem, too, is everyone on the floor had the ability to shoot it really well. So you can't, let anyone go by any means. So that was a little frustrating from my perspective. And I hope that moving forward, what the change is going to be is from the defensive end. I feel very comfortable with how Purdue runs their offense. It's a lot of movement, a lot of selfless basketball, balls being passed around, really trying to find an open player to make an open shot, and they take their time and are very efficient with their possessions. But on the defensive end, we've started to see a little bit of lapse in that intensity that we really want, and it's coming to bite us. This is the time to adjust it. So I think maybe there's a lot of concern from people that this is going to ruin the entire season, these 2 losses back to back. But I feel very confident in our players that they're able to, make adjustments and hopefully turn things right, or at least give us some good ball games that are exciting and, we see their energy again. I think that was kind of lacking as the game went on and the intensity of it kind of grew. Some other positive stats, I think we had 19 assists, Illinois had 10, 3 turnovers. So we really took care of the basketball today. Normally I would say that's going to be your game and that we, won this one. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Another thing that I will say before I go into the negatives is we had 44 points in the paint. Illinois had 14. So, I think when we have our bigs, let's make sure that we take advantage of them. That's a lot of points that we can generate from Oscar Clough and TKR. And then now the next adjustment we have to do is really start hitting our threes. We're 37% from 3. Illinois was 47%. So we need to start matching these teams in that 3-point intensity. The other thing that's the loss in this game is the rebounding. Illinois had 32 rebounds. Purdue had 19. That's not going to win any basketball games by being out-rebounded like that. So what are we going to do to adjust? And, if we are in foul trouble, what do we do to adjust? How do we respond? And what's our game plan here? I think Illinois was a very tall team that just kind of threw us out, and it sounds like one of the best things that they do is offensive rebounding. That's very apparent here. They had 12 offensive rebounds. Purdue had 3. So, props to Illinois. They came into play. And while I don't think that Purdue didn't come to play, they just were a little outmatched when it came from the rebounding perspective. And then when you shoot lights out like that from the 3-pointer, it's really hard to just find a way to win when you're only getting 2-point buckets and they're getting 3. I think a silver lining would be these past 2 games, we've seen some pretty incredible outperformances from players. Donovan Dent in the UCLA game had, I think, over 20 points. Keaton Wagler, again, 46 points, probably the highest points an opponent's ever earned in Mackey Arena. And, I think even with those outperformances and these great stats from shooting perspectives and things like that, Purdue was still in it. We lost by 2 points to UCLA and 6 to Illinois today. So I think really we just have to make some minor adjustments, continue to focus on the prize, and maybe reset some expectations about Big Ten overall, but think about just how we can continue to improve and get better. And I like some of this productivity we're seeing from the bench. I hope that continues. I think now we just need our seniors to really start to be leaders in these times of adversity and start to perform the way that we know they can perform. If it's not Fletcher Lawyer, then I think someone needs to be our 3-point shooter to get us back into this. Shooting and making, 3, 4, 5 threes a game is kind of what we're hoping for from at least like one player to be that hot shot that is kind of generating this energy, because I think that's going to be important. We've kind of fallen off that end, and I'd like to see that improve and just give us more confidence. I think that's really what we're looking for. But yeah, I think there's kind of a lot of frustration I think you'll hear online from these past 2 games, and I think you can see on the players' faces too. They're frustrated. They have they have a really good competitive edge. They want to win all these games. They're taking it one game at a time, and I think we just need to start seeing them adjust to these tough matchups. The Illinois game in particular was a tough one to lose because it's a home game, so you want that home court advantage on your side, and it's a ranked team, so that win would have been really good for us, especially coming after a loss. But moving forward, just think about what games are in front of you. The next one's Purdue at Indiana on Tuesday, January 27th. That's going to be a really big one. And, I hope that the expectation, if Purdue still wants to win a Big Ten championship, is that, these next games, don't look at it as a whole, but understand that each game moving forward, you got to win. So I think for me, the Big Ten championship is not as important to me personally. I think they've won enough to make me feel pretty confident that we have a very dominant standpoint in the Big Ten leagues. But, now it's really just let's stay healthy and make sure we're able to compete in March in particular. So I think our non-conference season gave us enough confidence to say that we can compete against other teams in different areas and can compete away. So let's just make sure that we stay healthy and continue to get better with each game. I'm personally a little frustrated that we lost this game, so I'm a little sad because I thought we had this one. I thought we could pull it out even with them shooting lights out. There's just a little bit of a breakdown in some defensive action and plays, and I think if we focus some of our energy on getting our defensive intensity back, we're back in this, and that we can really match up well against some of these top-tier Big Ten teams that are competing for the title. So that's what I'm thinking right now, and everyone's giving us our best shot. We have been one of the best teams in the Big Ten Conference for a couple years now. If not top team, then it's like top 5 or so. So everyone comes into Mackey, or when we visit, they give us our best shot, and kudos to these teams. They're doing a great job of that. But yeah, I think we can turn it around. I think we can bounce back from this. I hope that this gives these players a lot of energy and motivation to adjust and to make things happen. So that's what I'm thinking about. And yeah, thank you for watching. Would love to hear your thoughts. Again, I'm kind of a more positive outlook person on Purdue basketball. It's always fun to watch them play. It's kind of a bummer that they lost this one because they had some really good highlights, and I love to watch the highlights, but because it's a loss, it's hard for me to watch. So, yeah, I do like to think positive, but I still would love to hear your guys' thoughts, what you think's going on, what you think's wrong, what do you think we need to do to improve. And yeah, it's a long season, still January, but let's take the next game and make it count. So thanks, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.